Okay, thank you, Mr. Fleischer. Dr. Fleischer, thank you for getting us on. We are in the presence of a quorum now, joined by Representative Ting, Representative LaJoy, Johnson Law, and Representative Best. So when we call you out, if you could just identify yourselves for the record so we can confirm quorum. We'll begin with our student member at the top of my screen, Representative Ting.
Here.
Then we'll go to Representative Johnson Law,
Good afternoon in here.
and then Representative Best.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum present with 4 of the 7 members of the committee on, well, we call it the C committee, but it is the Student Engagement and Experience Committee here at the State Board. So we'll go right to the first item on the agenda so we can get us out of here in a prompt manner, hopefully within an hour and not the 2 hours that we had scheduled. So identifying committee focus topics. I was lucky enough to be able to speak with everybody on the board. I'd like to kind of go through the list. Can everybody see the list of bullets that we have on the potential focus topics that are listed?
Are you talking about in the Representative Goulet? Are you talking about in the calendar
Yeah, there,
invite?
yeah.
Or are you talking about? Are you sharing screen?
Yeah, Dr. Fleischer had shared that with everybody. I'm glad to share it on my screen if you can't see it, but it's just the starting with chronic absenteeism through school nurses and student health. Those bullets in the second box.
I'm going to post it in the chat as well.
Okay.
Got it. I see it. Okay.
Okay, and I'll have some things to add and clarify in this, but because this is just summarized, we're going to go into more detail. When we put the work plan out, we'll kind of go into more detail on each of these bullets, but we just wanted to talk them through, make sure these were topics that everyone is interested in. So, I mean, the issue of chronic absenteeism is something that we do. We have, Dr. Fleischer, are you continuing on the Everyday Counts Task Force?
I am. In fact, I have a meeting this Thursday for a quarterly meeting.
Okay, wonderful. Because we got sent an invite to potentially sign up for that, and I was hoping that you would be the one still doing it, but are other members on it too, or is it just you?
Great question. So I serve on a working group on safety. For that, there's a steering group that works with the different working groups that are out there. So one's on safety, one's on I'm trying to think of the other ones, but there are multiple working groups, and Representative Williams sat on the steering committee as well as Anna Mayer.
So probably either myself or Representative Johnson Law or Representative Best should sit on that task force now.
That would be great. Yeah, and I'm not sure if you filled out the external committees form yet, but that would be a place to mark your interest for that.
I did, and I will tell you what my honest reaction was because I thought you were the person on it. I put down that I was willing to serve on it, but if anybody else wanted to serve, they could absolutely go for it because and I thought it would be you continuing the role, but it sounds like we have kind of 2 seats in this. So if Representative Johnson Law or Representative Best are interested in doing that, I would absolutely defer to them, but would be glad to participate. So that's the work there, trying to tackle the issue of chronic absenteeism. The issue of indoor air quality, we just did the resolution on. I think it's something we want to continue to monitor as a committee. I think we will participate in if representative or not representative, if council member Janice Lewis George decides to get together with Brown University to do further work on this, that we would have a role to play in that. But this issue will be something we keep monitoring. The issue, I mean, I actually would put the next bullet, I would put 3 items under that, and one of which I discussed with Representative Johnson Law. The next issue of school trailers, I think, is a little bit more than that. It would be school facilities capacity, to look at issues of do we have pre-K capacity in the schools? Do we also have capacity for students with disabilities in all of our schools? And not just physical space, but appropriate physical space. And then third was the issue of just are we putting kids in trailers, and that affects indoor air quality as well, because some of the trailers get musty. So I think the third bullet, with leave of the board members, if we could amend that to also include looking at students with disabilities and then looking at pre-K capacity in that physical space analysis, that would be good. The issue of student safety, we've got the panel coming up. I think that's important, looking at both inside and outside of school. The SAC just had a really good meeting on that at their last meeting, had a lot of useful discussion on that. Representative Ting, do you want to share with us at all what you all talked about?
Yeah, we talked a lot. There's a lot of feedback. I don't have the notes in front of me right now, but from what I remember, a lot of kids talked about how they wanted more support in that, like, restorative justice only works in some cases and can lead to retaliation, and the school just is not equipped with the ability to stop retaliation, or at least like make students feel free from retaliation.
And I
Um,
wasn't there for that discussion, but
yeah.
that matches kind of what I've heard from parents. So,
And then, and there was feedback on in support of the cell phone ban because, like, for example, pornographic videos of students made without their consent were like spread as cyberbullying in one school, and that was one example where phones would have been like not having phones it would have helped.
yeah, that was really a extreme and unfortunate example of bullying that we heard there with that situation. Very sad too. Uh, so then the issue of special education inclusion. The discussion on this, I want to kind of caveat it a little bit here, is within our committee, all we can really discuss about is the student experience. So Representative Johnson Law asked that this be added to the list. I completely agree. She, I think, was talking about the student experience aspect of it, particularly related to OST and making sure we build inclusive capacity there. Now, the challenge with building special education inclusive curriculum is going to fall on another committee. That would probably be in college career and life readiness. It would not be in this committee, I don't believe, because it involves much more curriculum-based work, but we can look at facilities. We can look at certainly out of school time programs and things of that nature. So anything in the student experience, and then just even programs throughout the day in terms of how they relate to the student experience. So we want to make sure this is a focus. I know it's a priority for you, Representative Johnson Law. This was your idea to put this on here. So do you want to say anything more about this?
Thank you, Representative Goulet. Just that I know all the committees have a sped focus, and something that I did really want us to look into is how students are experiencing transition. So when children turn 14 and they have an IEP, they're supposed to start, the law states that they're supposed to start transition planning. The IEP team needs them to transition plan. And also too, at 14 is usually some children are in 8th grade, some of them are in 9th grade. It depends on when their birthday falls. But just preparing them for basically after school, and a lot of families, students rather, are struggling with like dealing with RSA, just really just trying to get a transition plan together. And so I just thought, we could just like really, really look into that, and to even, again, I know it's not under our direct line of authority, but to still raise up these issues that they're experiencing.
Be excited to do that with you, and I appreciate you putting this on the list of items because it's something that
Thank
we really
you.
need to focus on a lot. And then lastly, I had on here school nurses and student health. I think looking at it from both a mental and physical health standpoint, we've already passed as a board, I think a really important piece of legislation to address the crisis in our school health suites, which is the fact that we've lost 54% of our RNs in just one school year due to people fleeing. A lot of those nurses called me up after we introduced the legislation to thank us for doing so, but they talked about how the cluster model is driving them away because they fear that they're going to lose their license based on inexperienced and basically transitory workers in the LPN and health technician categories. So there's a real lot of concern about this, and I'm concerned that if this keeps up, we won't even have nurses to be able to safely cover the cluster model, that we'll be looking at a nurse traveling between 6 and 7 schools. And it's just, I don't use the word crisis lightly, but the fact that we've lost over half in a year, I think really merits a focus on what we're doing wrong in this area. And then if I could on this, I want to, Representative Mayer isn't here, but in addition with health, you look at nutrition, part of her Green New Deal for schools talked about championing Christina Henderson's legislation, which I'm very supportive of, which is to offer free healthy before school, after school snacks, and then lunches to all students, making sure that every student has healthy food available at school, which I think is really important. So I just want to continue to be supportive of that. So Darren, is it possible if we can add that, just the idea of like nutrition in there, or healthy food?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can make a note of that
Okay, great.
for the
And
committee.
then I want to talk about what's not on here, because I think there's three issues that aren't on here that I think we should talk about. The first one, when I talked with Representative Best, he talked about Civics Week. Now, this didn't make this list here, but I told him it was going to be on there. Now, the reason I think is because another committee is already covering this, or it was already referred to another committee. Dr. Fleischer, do you know which committee that was?
Let me think about that. Not,
But it was another committee. Maybe it wasn't you I had the conversation with. It might have been Jen.
yeah. Well, I'll have to circle back with you on that.
Okay, because I want to commit to Representative Best that if we can get that referred to our committee, uh, that I'm absolutely interested in pursuing it, and we'll put it in the work plan. It was just that another committee already had it under its jurisdiction, and I actually think we're the better place for it potentially, but we need to work that out. I think it was the College Career and Life Readiness Committee, but we'll double check. So Representative Best, if there's anything you want to add to that, let me know. But I was really supportive of what you're trying to do with Civics Week and want to get that done.
And like I'll repeat the offer again for like the youth and government program for YMCA. They have a lot of resources that could be helpful in disseminating for teachers during Civics Week.
Okay, that would be helpful. That'd be great, and we would love to partner with them too. So, thank you. And I'll follow up with Representative Best after to get his thoughts on which committee it should go to. But if it is within our committee, I want to commit to it being in the work plan, because that was the one issue he really wanted to champion this year. And then the other two things that I think should be added, one is one you raised, Representative Ting, at the working session, was the issue of and it was referred to this committee, so it should be in the work plan. It was the issue of the trying to obtain funding for the Charter School Athletics Board. And President Patterson asked to be recommitted to this committee for us to do some work on it. We may have someone joining us later to just share a few words with that in public comment, but that would be, and if you can hear my dog snoring in the background, it's not, sorry if it's distracting, I can boot him out.
I can't
but
hear
it's
it. I can't hear
a
it.
little ridiculous at this point. So we're glad to have that in the work plan. I'll make sure we work to add that, but I didn't want you to think we'd left that out. It just came in after we put the draft together.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the last issue, something that just came to me, and that's an issue where DCPS is requiring children to skip kindergarten, believe it or not, doesn't really make a lot of sense, and go directly from pre-K 4 to first grade if they're above the age cutoff. So we've had a couple instances like this, and I would like to look into it more in committee. The issue is if a kid is right at the cutoff. So in one instance, they were a day older than the birthday cutoff. They began in pre-K 3 as a 3-year-old, but turned 3, I think, just like 1 or 2 days before the tradition or after the cutoff. So it was like September 2nd, they turned 4. And they did pre-K 3. They're in pre-K 4 now, but DCPS is trying to require them to skip kindergarten and go from pre-K 4 all the way to first grade, even though the statute says that any sort of developmental considerations have got to be taken into account, and all indicators in this case point to the appropriate developmental marker for these children being in kindergarten. So it's a really strange situation. It doesn't appear DCPS is even reading the statute correctly on it, but it was something that alarmed me. I received word from an ANC commissioner, 2 parents about this, and it was just all in the last week. So it's something I'd like to follow up on, because it's just such a strange thing to be doing, to be forcing children to skip kindergarten. And I think it's something we should look at in committee. And again, it doesn't even look like they're following the law. So if we could add that to the work plan, that would be great. I saw Representative Best come off mute briefly. Representative Best, I don't know, is now a good time for you to unmute? We were just talking about making sure your request for Civics Week, if we could get it in committee, we would do so in the work plan. Uh, and if you want to get off mute, just chime in at any time on this, but we didn't want you to think we left it off on purpose. It's just we had to reconcile with other committees to make sure, we're the right destination for that work.
Yep, no, that's totally fine. I am open to doing whatever is necessary to support regardless of if it's in this committee or not. But I
Okay.
do also agree that I think that it should be here.
Yeah, and we can, if work was done in another committee and President Patterson finds this is the right committee for it, we'll certainly be glad to take their work product and not just start from scratch. We can use it to build upon this issue in our committee. So before we move on to discuss anything else, is there anything else anybody would like to add to the work plan? Right now, we always have an opportunity to add additional items to it, but what we'll do with this understanding of the items in it is then draft a more comprehensive one that we can then share with everybody. And this is kind of issues 1 and 3 mixed together on the agenda.
One other thing, I realized I don't have my camera on. One other thing I would add is we've been in talks with the Education Research Collaborative on just collaborating with them and partnering with them on conducting research on chronic absenteeism, just getting data, making sense of it, and helping us better understand what's going on the ground. And so that might be another area that the committee might want to look into.
Yeah, that was great work, but wouldn't that be included in the chronic absenteeism bullet?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I fully support that work. I mean, there was good work done on it last time to get it along. And so the way I'm reading what we're doing today, Dr. Fleischer, if we're right, is we're just kind of agreeing on topics, and then we're going to sit down, we'll put more meat to the bones and put together a full work plan of everything. But this was an opportunity to speak with members about what topics they wanted to focus on during this year. And then what we'll do is we'll as we go, we'll put more meat on the bones, but we wanted to agree on kind of the general work plan. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And so offline, like you said, offline, we could start building it out and getting members' reactions to maybe the scope of the work, how long it would take, what would go into it, and maybe some of the milestones that would go into each of the topics raised.
And what's our timeline that we should be achieving that?
We should aim for about a year.
I meant the timeline to get the draft done.
We can work on those at the very least, have topics ready for the April working session.
Okay, great. That's what I was hoping
I
for.
would even say it would be good if we have a draft work plan ready by the April working session.
I completely agree. And I'm forgetting one other topic that I asked be referred here, and that was the issue of the pre-K, particularly with the community-based pre-K and pre-K capacity. That was referred to here at the last working session.
Okay.
So, and that was specifically not on the issue of any curriculum, but it was on the issue of capacity. So specifically when they were talking about removing community-based pre-K in this year's budget, and then what we do about that.
P-keep?
P-keep. Yes.
P-keep?
Yes, that's the term for it, the term of art. So yes, exactly. So that should be in the work plan too. I think it's kind of touched upon, but we should specifically and maybe even try to do something on that quickly, because that issue will be very relevant for the budget and really important to parents, whether we keep P-keep. And there was a lot of public testimony at the OSSE hearing about that.
And I notice our next working session is on the day the budget drops.
Ooh, that might be hard. We may want to.
Right, it says our next, it's April 2nd, right? When the mayor's budget drops, right, you guys? Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be quite a day. All right, so that we'll add P-keep and those other items to the list. The one thing, so what do we do at this time? We're not really taking a vote on this, but is there any other items at this time that representatives want to add to the list of potential focus topics for the draft work plan? I think we've got a pretty full slate there, so that if we can get all that done in a year, that'll be a record. So that covers items 1 and 3. Dr. Fleischer, just procedurally, do we need to take a vote on approving these items, or is it really just a discussion?
It's just a discussion.
Okay, great. All right, then the next one, we'll go back to 2 since we've done 1 and 3 on the agenda. 2 is an idea I had, which I'd like to propose to members. And it's something that my mentor, boss for 14 years loved to do. And the council's actually doing today, which I'm glad because they haven't done them recently, starting at 4 o'clock. And that's since we are the student engagement group, to try to do and I'm glad to take the lead on this, to do like a weekend listening session with youth every month or every other month, to just hear from students that are in high school or 18 or under. But if they're over 18 but still in high school, we'll hear from them, but specifically from youth, not from adults. And what inspired me to think of this is Vince used to do this once a month at the council, and it was just an opportunity for any youth who wanted to come in and speak on any issue to be able to come in and get 3 minutes to tell public officials what mattered to them. And I think it was really relevant. Mostly it was focused on education, but I think it would be meaningful for this committee to do. And also what's really inspiring to me is the involvement we've seen at our SAC, because we have, I think record attendance at SAC lately. And oftentimes you'll go in there to try to put a measure out and you don't even have time to talk to all the students that we have on the SAC because, the time's limited there. So this would give, our students on the SAC who don't necessarily have a chance to speak in those meetings due to the limited time to be able to come in and also propose ideas to the board and then advocate for things that they're working on at SAC. So I think it's not just for SAC, but for all students. So there would have to be some work. We try to minimize the use of staff on this, but also still comply with all requirements for public meetings. Because if we had a quorum present, we would probably need to, we certainly would need to record it, and then we would need to be able to notice it. So I just wanted to hear from members if you thought this was something that you thought would be useful or interesting, and there would be no required participation for it. We would have it set up so you wouldn't have to have a quorum, but if you did, we'd want to make sure it was noticed. So is there any thoughts on this idea of something to pursue?
Representative Goulet, like, would it be like on a monthly basis?
I think we would want to start in a way where we could maintain it. So I would probably at first go every other month.
Okay.
See if we have interest. If we have a lot of interest, I mean, I'm willing to set aside, one Saturday or Sunday, per month to do this, but only if we really have people who are interested. So if we're not really seeing a lot of interest in it, I don't think we need to do it. And I think it could either be by Zoom. We could just have it by Zoom to minimize some of the logistical challenges, or like, let's say that there's organizations that want to help us with setting it up. Let's say, like, for example, we'll use PAVE as an example because they're always actively involved in things. Let's say they wanted to sponsor one in Ward 7, and we were able to record it in a way that wasn't onerous for the staff. I would be willing to also do it in communities too. So it's more of a concept at this stage, but I wanted to get the pulse of the committee on it and see if you liked it. And then I think what we need to do then is make sure it's not onerous for the staff, that we're not creating a lot of overtime there. But I think we're starting to see a lot of witnesses come out to our State Board of Ed meetings in the evenings, which is really good. But the problem with that also then is then, sometimes they're going into midnight or something. So if we have a path where youth could also come in and speak before the board, but they don't have to, be on a agenda that I think we're trying to, keep at a reasonable level, I think would be good, because oftentimes, when you have that many people, large panels, you don't give a chance to really have a back and forth with the youth about their ideas. And I think that would be beneficial. So hopefully the other benefit to it would be is it would reduce the amount of testimony we're seeing at the public meetings, because the youth would have another path to go to. That wouldn't be the only option. So I'm not wedded to any sort of timeline for it or any sort of format, but I think just the idea of doing, if we start out with, 4 to 6 a year and see if people like it, and if it's something that is working, that we maybe would expand it. But I don't want to start big and then have it crash and burn and then not continue it, if that makes sense.
I personally think it's an excellent idea and support it 100%.
Okay,
I like it. I was
okay.
gonna say I echo it. And we can even like with a smaller number, maybe start out with 3. I don't know why. I feel like 3 is like a don't judge me. Did y'all ever see Schoolhouse Rock when it was like 3 is the magic number? So
Well, that would be perfect because if we could do 3 this year, that would be, pretty much 1 a quarter. So that would
right.
be good. So
And then we'll have
maybe,
some data to go on to see how well
yeah.
they go.
Well,
Yeah.
I love that idea actually. So like if we could shoot for 1 maybe during budget season, 1 like as we're coming back to school or something like that to hear from
Right.
students about, what they're thinking coming back to school, and then maybe like 1
Right.
in the winter or something.
Yep.
As people prepare for the holidays, but nothing too onerous. And I really want to also be respectful of the staff on this and find a way to minimize uh, their time. Maybe we could even use interns to help run it or something like that.
And just to jump in here, and not raining on this parade because everyone's
I know you tried to rain on it the last time I
not
took.
raining on anybody's parade. I do want to throw in staff's side of things. I think bringing this to the working session and getting more feedback from the members and from staff. We did, members have raised in the past having like a town hall for like budget season. So like with enough notice and planning, staff not only can help out, but as far as I know, staff would have to be a part of this and help with it. But like I said, enough time and planning. Another thing I want to add is with the student advisory committee, an earlier, I think back in like late 2024, the student members were looking at other youth organizations and groups across the city and connecting with them and sharing what they're doing and hearing what their concerns are. So like for example, like Mikva Challenge, things like that. Just hearing from other students. And so this might be an opportunity to reach out across the aisle with other not across the aisle, but reach out and speak with other youth groups.
Hmm.
If you're trying to dissuade us from doing this, you're not doing a good job, because that
No.
actually makes me want to do it even more. Like I love that idea. Like we connect with those groups, we bring those groups in, they tell us directly. I mean,
Yeah.
that
And
works,
maybe,
Darren.
yeah, I was
That's
gonna
a good
say,
idea.
Darren, and also Dr. Fleischer, in response to like staffing concerns, like Representative Goulet said, it could be something like we're checking with people on Zoom, where like it's an easy lift. Also like the meetings are recorded, and Zoom, I believe, has a transcription and AI to be able to help with note taking. Like, would you all, and again, we can talk about this with the larger group, but would you all be more amenable to a virtual option? Like, is that a heavier lift or it's easier for you all in person? Like, what's your perspective?
Is that a question for me or for the group in terms of a virtual option?
I mean, it could be for the group, but I want to just start with you because, like you said, like we have to have a staff, like anything that we do, like we have to have a staff member there. So I actually want to center you and start with you first.
The tricky thing is, I mean, there's trade-offs here because by having it virtual, you could have a lot more, but then it might then have an influx. If we're talking district-wide, and it's just all these students. I mean, if you think about how many students are in the district and just middle and high school, for example, and maybe even some elementary school students, I've seen them testify in front of council before. It's a lot. So then you have to think, should we have a threshold of like the first like 40 who sign up, something like that? Because just having that many would require a lot of dedicated resources and maybe even like just thinking through this. So just like talking this through. Um, Another option might be just meeting the threshold at like 40 students or something, and everyone else can share written testimony or like written, like fill out a form and tell us what they're experiencing. Another thing to think about is how we're using that information and being very clear about that of like, are we going to categorize this, move on these, like what is this engagement? What's the end result?
So
And then
here would
last,
be, can I give a thought on it?
yeah.
But I don't want, I cut you
Oh,
off.
you're the
Can you
chair.
finish? I cut you off.
I would say one last thing, and something I have in mind, I keep in mind sometimes is maybe not just having like three, the magic number, uh, engagements and like having them testify or join these meetings, but maybe another option would be having one where we hear from them, but also having the option or thinking about coming to them. So if students from a certain school are saying, here's what we're experiencing, go to that school and hear from students, maybe like two or three or four schools, hearing from the students or breaking it up by members. But that's also something where you can get student experience and actually hear from them in their school setting.
Yep.
I just wanted to throw that out there. So we have the SAC, we have staff who can um, possibly help with this work, as well as like doing virtual, doing something in person, similar to the public meetings that we're doing now, and then going to them. Another thing I should throw out there though is if it is hybrid, we would need a lot of planning ahead of that. The public meetings, we have someone from like someone come in and helping monitor and control the in-person versus virtual. If it's entirely virtual, again, we'd have to monitor, like let people in or kind of facilitate that
Can
the online version of that.
So here's what I would recommend, because I want to make this easy. I would not try to do hybrid. I would be fine with, like, let's say this is a real success, let's say. I would be fine with alternating virtual versus in person. Like, let's say let's say this really takes off and we're really having a lot of youth interest in it. We could do virtual 1 month, and the next month maybe we go to Ward 7, do virtual, then we go to Ward 8. That we move around, or we get a school that invites us to come and we go to that school like you talked about. So like but I think if you start getting into hybrid with it, uh, it's going to be an absolute logistical nightmare to try to manage that. And I think both provide value. Being in person, like, provides value. I think it's a little bit more work with the logistics and might be more staff work. I think virtual is really easy. I mean, I can do a hearing myself and admit people, because I've done that a lot. But I don't want to do hybrid unless somebody feels very strongly that makes sense, because it's a lot of work to try to do hybrid, and I would rather alternate, if that makes sense.
I would say I like the alternate idea, and I just and Dr. Fleischer, the reason I was thinking three was it gives you a data point to see if it's working well. So instead of like wetting ourselves to it, we don't have to wet ourselves to this. We just want to see like if it works out for you all as a staff, if it's working out for the people that come, like, and if there's interest. And so that way, if it's just like super, super low, then we can rethink, okay, well, how do we re-engage? Maybe we just, talk to a couple of our schools and to be like, okay, like, let's schedule like a visit or something, and we do it that way. So it was just to see like, like the interest, like if people like would want to. And I think for what we do with the information, I think part of the goal is that people just want to engage us. And I think people just want to see us more. So, like, I think one of the, maybe, I don't know if it would be like principles, but just engagement, right? Like, just hearing what is going on. So that way we always have our ears, to the ground, and I'm thinking, I'm not trying to call out Representative Best, but it's like I know I have kids, right? So like I hear things. Representative Goulet may have children, so he hears things, right? And so for those of us who may, be on school visits but are not like in school like every day, this gives another opportunity for more people, just to kind of like weigh in and tell and engage with us to be like, what is going on, and like what do students need help with? So I just wanted to explain my rationale behind that. And also too, I agree with Representative Goulet. Like, we are trying to make this as seamless as possible, planning it as possible. We do not want to burden the staff more than because you guys are doing a lot. So we really want to figure out, like, even if it's, okay, Representative Johnson Law, like you're admitting people. Representative Best, you're monitoring the chat. Representative Goulet, you know, like
I'll
I
take
know,
notes on, what people have said, so we have
right.
a list. I mean, something like
Yeah,
that.
we can like figure out, we can tag team it with you so that way you all are not doing it by yourself. And I keep speaking for Representative Best, but I don't want to keep speaking for him. Brandon, I'm sorry.
It's
So,
okay.
well, that I think then, so we have, I think your recommendation, Dr. Fleischer, is that we now discuss this at the working session, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. So, are you going to help us get that on the agenda? Do we need to request it? How does that work?
Great question.
Oh,
I'm
it's the
going
form,
to-
right?
Sorry,
Isn't it the form? Isn't it like a working session form?
after each committee meeting, I write a committee report and I will capture this. So as the chair, you would read the committee report and include that. And then
And then we would just seek feedback at that point.
exactly. So you would
Excellent.
get in the question and answer period.
That is perfect.
Like I will make sure to highlight these things that it's easy to like, here's like the top items to get feedback on for members.
Okay, great. Is everybody ready to move on to our last item then?
Hmm.
Okay, great. So item 4 is the agree on the cadence of meetings. So this could have one of two meetings. I was going to ask you about, is it how long we have the meetings for or how frequent? Or both?
It would be, yeah, it would be that like mainly we need to put every month. I'm assuming we'd meet every month for this, and so we need at least 2 weeks to publicly notice these meetings. And so I could just put a hold for like say we meet every what is this every third Tuesday at 3:30, 4 o'clock, whatever you want to do
Yeah.
for an hour. Then I would set those up for the DC registrar so that they're aware of them. And I think Representative Goulet, you mentioned just the getting the timing right. So between working sessions and public meetings, or having it so that whatever work comes out of here is able to keep up and be ready for working sessions or public meetings. So just being strategic about that.
That sounds good. Can you get us a draft list of dates? I'm seeing from Representative Law that maybe Wednesdays might even work better for scheduling, so we should consider that. If we could get like a draft of like what your recommendations are for the meeting dates so that we make sure that anything that we vote out of here goes to the working session, that would be helpful. Like today's our one item that we're sending to the working session is the discussion of the draft work plan. But is there like, if you can kind of maybe recommend 9 dates this year for us, that would be good. And I'm going to put something out there. I'm not wedded to this, but I would ask members. I would prefer to do these in the evenings, and I'm going to say why. Because we have 3 student members on here, and right now we only have 1. And I think for students with after-school activities, it's going to potentially impair the ability of students to participate in this. So for me, I would prefer to do these meetings around 6:30 or 7 o'clock. That would probably for you, Representative Fleischer, be challenging on some level, but maybe you could just come in later those days and then do them in the evenings.
Yeah.
But I would like to throw that out there because I'd like all of our members to be able to participate regularly. And I have work commitments, like I have to take time off during the workday when I do these meetings, which I'm fortunate enough to do now in my current role. But if I switch roles, I may not be able to do so. So, I mean, for me at least, to get more of our students to be able to participate regularly and to make it easier for members with work commitments to be able to participate, I would like to go to like 7 o'clock. But I'd like to put that out there for everybody to discuss.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear from Ryan, and we don't have Kalik and Anna on the line, but whether that would work for them
I
as
saw
well.
a message from Brandon saying he agrees with that strategy. So,
I would say even for me, it's difficult to get off to stop during this time. And so even if it were, 6 or something along that lines. Evenings, I do believe, are much better.
Okay, and I see Representative Johnson Law also put that in when so that's two. Representative Ting, do you want to say anything about the timing?
I mean, my schedule's actually more or less clear because I don't have classes now and I'm just doing an internship.
I should
But
have known that. That was the we put that in the cell phone thing due to your
yeah,
school letting you all out early. I forgot about that.
no, like I don't have any classes at all anymore for the rest of my high school career because my school is like treats me well like that.
Wow.
Um,
That's endorsing senioritis. I'm not sure I can support that, but no. Okay, so it doesn't really present an issue for you. Maybe
yeah,
we can check in,
but
with the other two
evenings work better,
representatives because it
and I
may.
assume it works better for Anna and Galik too.
Yeah,
Okay,
we meet the SAC meeting, the SAC student representatives, the five of us meet Thursday evenings from 6 to 7.
okay.
And so if that works for you all, I could propose, like you mentioned, some dates and times and hear from the group. And
Yeah,
then
that'd be great. I think that'd be wonderful because I'm up for 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I just think it's hard during the workday for people for elected members to get time off. I think for two of the three student reps, it may be hard with after school activities and conflicts with school to get time off. So I just would like to try to see if we could make sure we provide an opportunity for everybody to participate.
And I have not done this yet, but I'll throw this out there. But if you all ever want to do an in-person meeting, that's fine too. You want to do like one for the year or something like that.
We can do a party in December or something like that to all
Okay.
celebrate together, maybe. But for me, the
It's still
virtual, I'll just be honest, the virtual works easier for me because it's like wherever I am, then I can do it. Like if I've got the kids at the house, I can do it there. If I'm, at work still, working late, I can do it there. Like I've got lots of then options to do it virtually versus if it's at a place, I not only have to travel, I got to park. And I
Yeah.
think I love doing that with the in person for the other meetings, but I want to take advantage of the virtual technology. So I'm not I think we can decide later if we want to all get together, maybe have an in-person meeting for fun and do that. But at least for me, I'm just speaking for me, I'd rather stick to virtual because I just think it makes it easier for people to participate. But I want to hear from everybody else.
I was going to say virtual is better. It's easier for me to access. It's more accessible for me.
Okay.
So, that's an interesting challenge, and what I mean by that is, I think that virtual is definitely better as far as like being accessible, but I think sometimes you get like, just a better feeling when everybody's there in person, and so I mean, I think I would choose accessibility over the other option, but I do think that maybe where there's to
You're cutting out a little bit, Brandon, but
He's trying to make the point that you also don't have
Yeah.
technology issues if you're in person too.
I see Ryan's hand.
Yeah.
Also, while we're waiting for technology issues to fix, Nick joined, so I'll allow him to speak afterwards.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I may actually switch over to my phone to finish this because I may have to go pick my kids up. So, anyways, so as we wait for Nick, can we just, the last issue was the time of the meetings. We thought we might need 2 hours for the first one, but it looks like we're going to get it done in an hour. I mean, I would like to try to be efficient with these and get them done in an hour. Does that seem like the right amount of time for everybody? Less than an hour is fine, but does an hour seem good to everybody? Do you think we need longer? I do not.
I-
Okay, so 1 hour from this point forward, and we're going to probably get this one done in an hour too.
Yep.
Okay, so let's hear from Nicholas. This won't be the last opportunity you get to speak with us, but do you want to present a little bit of information, more background information on the issue of funding the charter school athletics and the board there?
Oh yeah, totally. Okay, so I think I'm gonna start out from like the perspective of like a student participating in charter school athletics because this is the SAE. So like in my experience participating in athletics, generally it's been because of the due system, I pay like $500 a season for athletics. Not every school does that, but like at my school, at basis at least, that's pretty exorbitant. I know people who don't participate in sports, they would like to because of that, and have problems like paying for that. Additionally, there's like in some sports less access to seasons. Like I personally didn't have an indoor track season. I'm a runner, because I've talked to Coach McNinch or President McNinch. She's the person who runs the PCSIA, and there are just like limitations based on how much the PCSAA can do and expand with the volunteer labor, right? And like I know people on the Ultimate Frisbee team are doing this, who have like similar issues with like not being able to get a huge amount of games. So it seemed like from a student perspective, it feels like the PCSAA is kind of limited in its current capabilities. Like it's great, like I enjoy it, but it feels like it could be better, right? And I
Yeah.
know a lot of people have left charter schools, like going from middle to high school, or like similar things, or like for like public schools or private schools, because there's just better athletics and like more athletic opportunities.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing that as the public testimony portion of this meeting. We are going to look into this issue today. Before you got on, we put this in our work plan for the year. So we're looking forward to continuing to work with you, with SAC, with Ryan, obviously, on this, to see what the next steps are. I think what President Patterson talked about was us getting together to discuss this with leadership from the board. We certainly want to keep you involved with it, and we appreciate, you being excited and engaged on charter school sports. So, uh, there's nothing we really need to take action on or vote on today with it, but we wanted to have you join us, speak a little bit about the issue, and then we made sure we added this to our work plan for the year, so it'd be something that our committee takes up.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I can speak more on like the experiences that Coach McNinch has like told me about. Well, President McNinch has told me about as like both someone who's like running like a sport within a school and someone who's running the whole association. Because like I was just talking about it from a student perspective there.
Well, great. Well, we'll look forward to that, and this certainly won't be the end of the conversation. We want to continue the dialogue on it and, have those meetings and then be able to come up with some recommendations for the state board on this issue. So
And
we
I,
really appreciate you joining us today, Representative Best. I'll acknowledge you. Do you want to say anything to?
yeah, and I would love to, jump in on that conversation, and even if it's offline, I used to be the also the athletic director over at KIP, across all of our schools, and so I have a unique experience with this issue. I would love to jump in and have a conversation about that.
Wonderful. Well, we'll turn to your expertise on this to kind of guide us as we go, because I'm not as familiar with it, and I appreciate, Nicholas, you joining us today to tell us more about it.
Yeah. So, what is I don't know how big like the time slot I have or whatever for this is because
Well, I
like
think the goal with this was, because we do want to try to get people out within the hour, was just to kind of hear from you, because this is an ongoing discussion. We weren't going to make decisions on this today. So we wanted to kind of come in, have you introduce the issue today. But I think what will be better is if we have a Zoom meeting specifically on this issue. And certainly we'd be glad to invite you into, some of those meetings and discussions, but this won't be decided today. It was really just to put this on the work plan, and we've done that, and you've been able to come in and share some details with us about it. But this isn't the end of the discussion today. It's really just the beginning. So we're not, unless, I don't want to speak for everybody. I think the goal of this is just to get it on the work plan, hear from you, and then come back with a more in-depth look at this when we have time to get all the parties engaged. And certainly we'll keep you in the loop on this, and Representative Ting is a member of the committee. So
yeah.
I just want to thank you for joining us today. That's, I think, kind of what we were looking to get done today with it. But
Yeah, thank you for having me.
yeah, well,
So I
thank you for
guess like
coming and taking time out of your day to join us. I really appreciate that a lot. And thanks for caring about this issue. It's really important.
yeah.
So,
So should I just like leave the
Well,
meeting.
you can stay on for the end. You can watch us adjourn. So, is there any other business anyone else wants to discuss at this time, or are we ready to adjourn the meeting?
I have one other thing, like if I could just share
Yes.
3 minutes of your time.
Yes.
I sent you all, I just wanted to get your feedback on this before I finalize it. But I created each year we do a committee primer of just like what's happened in years past, what's current. What you're seeing is sort of an internal version for the committee. But I could also have a public facing one. So the first page has, can you all see my screen, by the way?
Yes.
Great.
It's small. I can see it, but I can see it fine.
Okay. The first page, I'm showing more of the layout. So it's just the description of the committee, members' pictures, which I'll update, um, the levers of action for our committee. So research, advocacy, relationship building, impacting policy through like legislation, advocacy, like writing op-eds, writing resolutions, conducting research. And then this next page is what happened before the Student Experience and Engagement Committee came together. So we had something called the School Community and Wellbeing, which took on a lot of the topics that we've done. So I put this together of just like giving an idea of what's come in the past, like defining, having students define what safety means to them, some of the resolutions that were passed. And if you go down, C committee work that happened last year. So the previous members and makeup, everything they accomplished with that committee. And then this is more internal. And you have this in your inbox, but these are just research partnership opportunities based on discussions that you all have had recently, and just ongoing work. So that Education Research Collaborative on attendance, facilities, we're going to share with the DC Council, the Indoor Air Quality Task Force, like we mentioned at the working session, out of school time programming, just things going on in the background. So OST office put out their strategic plan, and that's been ongoing. And DC Council held a hearing last year on the progress of that. Special education, I have just a note on that, and we discussed that at this meeting. Student engagement, Representative Goulet mentioned that. Student health and safety, just keeping in mind, last year we heard from the Deputy Mayor's office on justice and safety, on safe passage, safe blocks program. And we just heard from them. They asked for some feedback as well as just maybe support in getting the word out on safe passage. And lastly, transportation, the letter that we sent to OSSI in terms of transportation questions for students with special needs.
Well,
And then
this looks fantastic, Darren. Thank you for Dr. Fleischer for sending it to us. It's if everybody's looking for it, it's also in your inboxes. It came in today at 3:34 p.m. From Dr. Fleischer. Did you? Yeah, you sent it to everybody on the committee. So that's great. So so we could look through this. Is there a way we can mark it up or send suggestions on it?
yeah, if you want to reply back with bullets or put go in here and write a comment and say, hey, could you update this, or I'd like to see this. Maybe bullets are better, or like just in the email body, just bullets would be fine.
Okay, great.
But this is just really to both give, if the public ever asks, what's the Student Experience Engagement Committee? This would quickly give a sense of what what's been done in the past and what's working on currently. And just this all the resolutions going back to 2020 to 2024, as well as recent panels that we've had from 2023 to 2025 on Student Experience and Engagement Committee.
Okay, so one thing real quickly. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it a lot, and we'll all comment back with it. Representative Best is having difficulty with his internet connection, and he has been booted off. So what I'm going to do at this time, just to comply with the requirements that we have, and because I think we've exhausted the topics on the agenda, I just want to thank you, Dr. Fleischer, for sharing that. We'll all comment to it, and then we'll get it live. But we do not have quorum at this time, so it would, but we have covered everything on our agenda, so that is a victory. We got it all done, but now since we've lost quorum, I think I'm going to recommend that we adjourn at this time, just so that we remain in compliance with our requirements. And Representative Best texted me, he didn't leave the meeting, he got kicked off due to internet issues. So if there's no objection, I ask to adjourn the meeting at this time. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you all for joining our first meeting. I think it was good, and we kept it to an hour and 6 minutes, which is pretty good. So we'll try for an hour next time. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fleischer. See y'all
Thank you,
later.
Dr. Fleischer. Bye, everybody.